There is no heaven. There is no hell. There is only this world and its dark reflection. And we do not know in which of the two worlds we are.
Good evening, and welcome to our show, Trucking to Heaven. No, no, no. The CC Radio Network, live from New York. This is Felix with my co-host.
It's me.
It's Mr. Dr. Mark.
That's it. You got that right.
And today's show is basically what happens after death.
Or also out-of-body experiences. Has anyone ever had an out-of-body experience? It's a big deal now. I mean, we've seen a lot. It changes people's lives. You know, some people become more religious. Some people turn their whole life around.
Okay. Also, has anybody seen any UFOs?
No, I don't think we're talking about UFOs.
To me, that's the same as an out-of-body experience.
Well, I don't know. I mean, look, you know what happened to me 10 years ago. I went in for a routine meniscus surgery, and the doctor was administering the anesthesia, was getting a spiral, and everything was working fine until, knowing me, I was in the middle of a joke, and I said, wait a second, I can't breathe. And I woke up a day and a half later at Long Island Jewish Hospital. Okay? Now, I didn't see a white light, and I didn't see my mother. At the time, my mother was the only one who had passed away. So I knew I wasn't going to die. Okay? I really don't have much to add to the conversation other than that. But it was a frightening experience. My neurologist said, you know, I still don't really remember anything from that day and a half. And he said, you're better off. He said, it's just lost time. He said that you're very lucky that you're not in a nursing home dribbling your food as you're being fed.
But I still don't know how that has anything to do with an out-of-body experience.
I said I didn't have one.
Oh.
I was,
Well,
I was, you know, in respiratory distress. For all intents and purposes, I was practically dead.
But
I wasn't breathing for 6 minutes. I got no oxygen for 6 minutes.
Did they ever declare you as being dead?
No. As far as I know, no. But still, you know, I don't, you know, as Sally Field told Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump, it just wasn't my time. You know.
You have a new message from Dan Monaco. Here is the message. Can't hear you guys at all on CC.
What was that?
That was Dan saying he can't hear us at all on CC Radio Network.
We're doing all this for nothing?
Well, we're on Spreaker, but we're not on the CC Radio Network.
I don't understand why.
Neither do I.
It's the story of our life. Maybe we're dead. You ever think
Okay.
about it?
All right.
Maybe we're nothing but ectoplasmic residue. I don't know.
Neither do I.
You always seem to do everything right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
For any of you who are listening, please don't hang up. You
We
know,
we just been
really good.
we've just been told that we can't be heard by some people, so I am going to
Dial in again.
dial in again, and hopefully you were wrong and we actually were on the whole time, but now if we were disconnected.
You sure Don couldn't hear us, right?
That's what I'm being told.
You have a new message from Dan Monaco.
Okay?
Here is the message. Can't hear Mark.
Oh,
My mic is on.
can you hear, Dan, can you hear Felix? Okay, can you hear us now?
Dan. Oh, come to think of it, when I was talking, I didn't hear myself. Now I do. So what
Dan
happened?
Monaco, money, man.
Come on. What happened? You didn't press a button?
The microphones, I think, was just shut off a little bit.
Oh, that's right. Cut me off. I'm only the intern. I have nothing to add to this conversation.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I didn't do it on purpose, but I don't even know if we're on.
I'm going to give Felix an out-of-body experience soon. One
We're,
that he
di-
won't
we're,
forget.
we're disconnected.
How'd we get disconnected?
When I hung up?
Dan hung up.
When I hung up.
No, we should still be on.
We're not on. Look, disconnected. Host disconnected.
Well, you're the host. I'm the intern. Call up again.
Host disconnected.
All right. You made your point.
Just reading what it says. I can't end it. Oh, we're in trouble. We're in lots of trouble.
Everything is wiped out.
Everything is, well, no. Oh, boy.
You know what this is?
A new message from Dan Monaco. Here is the message on Spreaker. Okay now.
Okay, now? A little too late. We're not on anymore. Oh, boy. Are we making fools of ourselves tonight? We're still broadcasting on Spreaker, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen who are listening to us on Spreaker, we got a little bit of an issue here.
Blog Talk Radio has kicked us off.
Not on purpose. Probably we did it ourselves. So I'm going to put Mark on for a second.
No, don't do that.
I got to type, unless you want to type.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure some of us have heard stories about out-of-body experiences. Now, I'm not saying that we've experienced it ourselves. Most people have not. But for some people who have experienced it, it has literally changed their lives. At least one person made a complete 180. He was, I believe, an art dealer traveling in Europe. It's a common story. I think some of you may have heard it before. He got very sick when he was in Italy, and he was in a coma for about a week. And I don't know if he met Jesus, but he certainly found Jesus during this time. And he promised that if he could wake up, he would change his life. And he did. He became a minister with a congregation in Middle America, maybe even in Ohio, I'm not sure. And his story, as I said, is quite common. How these out-of-body experiences change the lives of some people. The other thing that we'd like to discuss, which obviously it's a matter of opinion, is death the end? Is there anything after death? If you know anything about Plato, Plato said that the spirit goes into a room with other spirits.
It has recently changed.
And
Please
when
listen
your
carefully
time
to the new...
comes,
Your show is
you
scheduled
are
to start
sent
in
to another
17
body.
minutes.
Please call back within 15 minutes of scheduled showtime.
When
Thank
it
you for using
changes
Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
is when you have attained, I guess, true enlightenment, and you are all energy and knowledge, and then you are not reincarnated and go into another body. I joke about Houdini. He said he's coming back, but we're still waiting. As far as my own beliefs, I like to think that, my belief makes death more palatable, at least for me, that there is something. Obviously, I can't say, I don't know what it is, but I can't think that after an existence on Earth, that death is the ultimate end. I know many people believe that when you die, that's it. There is no existence. There is no life. I know that in the Jewish religion, they tend to believe that, you make your heaven and hell on earth. I really don't know.
Well, doesn't Jewish religion say when death comes, it is the end?
That's what I said.
It? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we, I think it's time for you to change your religion.
Oh, I don't know.
Becoming a dude.
Born a Jew, die a Jew, but I just believe that there's something after. I promise you, I'll come back and tell you.
Okay. But I'm sure nobody's holding their breath and going to wait.
Well, if you hold your breath too long, you're going to wind up joining me.
Before you go.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, just so you understand, we are broadcasting on Spreaker, but we somehow got disconnected from our simulcast of Blog Talk Radio. So, I would say in about 14 minutes,
our show is doomed. Let's put it this way.
We'll be back on Blog Talk Radio. And
yeah, but do you realize that it's not helping us any, because people on Blog Talk Radio who dialed in can't hear us.
Well, not for a little while.
It has recently changed.
Your show is scheduled to start in 14 minutes, 32 seconds.
Okay. We are connected. And if Dan is listening to us on Spreaker. We'd like him to come in.
As the Verizon commercial
14
says,
minutes
can you hear us
until
now?
showtime.
Come on down. You can call anytime. Even while we're still just on Spreaker. This is not professional way of doing things, but what the heck? What are we going to do? We got to do the best we can with what we got. And it ain't much. What do you think, Mark?
I don't know. You've invested thousands of dollars here, Felix. Why can't we get it right?
I don't know. I think we're just doomed. And it's funny, Spreaker just keeps rolling along. But
13 minutes until showtime.
13 minutes before Blog Talk Radio goes on. And meanwhile, let's sit down, relax,
Have that cup of coffee.
have that cup of coffee, make another cup of coffee, because for the next 12 minutes, we'll not be saying anything of too much substance.
Do we ever?
Okay, we'll say less than we normally don't say.
Well, I really wish for those people who are on Spreaker, if somebody can hear us, and you have something to say about
12
an out-of-body
minutes
experience
until
or
showtime.
life after death, please call us up.
At 646 595 3275.
He's going to leave. You know that.
Yeah, that's why I want him to call now. This is beautiful music. But you didn't realize I could play the piano so well.
It's a play a piano, folks.
That's just I play piano.
11 minutes until showtime.
11 minutes till showtime. If those people who are on the Spreaker and listening to this, I apologize.
Minutes until showtime.
You know, a lot of people who haven't listened to this show before don't know that the Coffee Club started a grassroots movement.
Here is the message. What number?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please call us at 646. Stop it now. 646 595 3 2
9 minutes till showtime.
7 5. That's our show number to call. And here we go. We have a caller. Can you hear me, caller?
Yeah. Hi, this is Don calling.
Hey, Don. We're having a little bit of an issue here tonight. We normally do is we simulcast on two different formats, Blog Talk Radio and Spreaker. And
Yeah, we've been trying to reach you for the last 20 minutes.
yeah, we've only been broadcasting on Spreaker. Those are problem. So in 8 minutes, which you'll hear the recording in a second, you'll hear it.
8 minutes until showtime.
In 8 minutes, Blog Talk Radio will also go on, and then you'll be able to hear us as you normally listen.
Should we call back then in 8 minutes? And
Well, we're still broadcasting now, believe it or not. But if you want to call in 8 minutes, it's up to you.
yeah. Well, it says it's actually good time in 8 minutes. We can call back in 8 minutes.
Whatever
Make sure.
whatever your heart
We
desires.
couldn't hear Dr. Mark that clearly.
Dr. Mark couldn't hear Dr. Mark.
Dr.
Now
Mark
we can hear you.
forgot to turn on. No, he didn't. We didn't have the sound on it properly. Mark, talk to him. Make sure that he can hear you.
Oh, I'm sure he could hear me now.
Oh, I can hear him now. Yeah. Hi.
Okay.
How are you?
Okay.
Are your listeners able to hear now, or are we?
Yes,
waiting for
we
them?
have.
7 minutes until showtime.
We have listeners on Spreaker, the other format who hear us. The Blog Talk Radio, which you log in on, we made a mistake on it and we disconnected ourselves. And we're going back
Are
on.
your listeners able to hear us?
Some of them, yes.
You want me to
Not
come
not
back in
all of
5
them.
minutes?
And,
Back in 5 minutes so that everybody has
okay.
the advantage of this brilliant forecast that's about to happen.
All right, you got it. Call
All
back
right,
then.
well, hang up.
Or you
We'll
could
call you
just,
back in a bit.
I could just put you on hold and you can just hear this. And you'll know when
All
we
right.
start.
All right, put it on hold.
Okay.
I'm going to go out and get a beer. I'm going out to get a beer. I'll be right back.
Can you get me one too?
No, you drink coffee. I drink beer.
Okay.
But this is the coffee club.
Minutes until showtime.
All right.
All right, come back.
I'll stay on the line.
Okay, that was Dr. Mark. And he will be back shortly.
No, Dr. Mark is here. That was Dr. Don.
Oh. Okay. Hey, listen. I'm having an inner body experience right now. My mind is going inside my somewhere, not very well. If nobody knows what I'm talking about, that's okay. Neither do I.
It's better that way.
Sometimes I think so. As I said, we are actually stalling because we don't want to give you all our good stuff and then you can hear it again. So we're going to make you be bored for the next couple of minutes.
I think they're bored
Minutes
already.
until showtime.
If you're bored already, I apologize. And you know how time goes slow when the clock is ticking.
No, when you keep looking at the clock, time goes slow.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I got my PhD in useless information. See that? You know. There it goes, down the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, come on. That's not nice.
We'll do anything to kill the next couple of minutes. Sorry, guys, we can't bring you in yet. You stay outside till we're ready for you.
Well, you told them that we were having problems. They wanted to come in and eat.
I
Can't
know.
blame them.
No, I guess not. But let's
4
open up the
minutes
doors, see what
until
it sounds
showtime.
like out there.
Sounds like a storm.
Yeah, doesn't it?
I think that's what happens when the devil takes your soul. You know, it certainly doesn't happen when you're going to heaven. You know, you have that bright light.
No, it's just windy outside. Everything has to have another meaning, Mark. I see it's quieted down already. We just had a little bit of a wind. That's all.
Okay.
No big deal. It's not like it's, doing anything else. Yeah, I'll open up the door and I'll show you.
3 minutes until showtime.
Here is the message. Sounds terrible. My father is ready to talk.
What message is that?
We're not on yet.
Who was that?
That's Dan. His father is ready to talk. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
All right, let's go see what's going on here. We're going to start in 2
Let's not go crazy.
minutes.
We might actually scare Blog Talk Radio into kicking us off again.
Yeah, it's true. So anyway, all those Spreaker people must be really getting bored with this show.
2
I
minutes
think
they just hung
until
up.
showtime.
I really do apologize. And, anyway, I don't know. We got less than. I don't know. How much time do we left? Mark,
What?
are you paying attention to me?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't believe in beating around the bush. You tell me when we're on, and all of a sudden I'll perk up and wake up.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh. Oh, yeah.
1 minute
I like that.
until showtime.
Yeah, that'll perk you up.
She certainly did.
Okay. We are ready. Almost. Almost time. We got. How much time do we have left? Do you know? Anybody know?
Well, we've wasted a half hour, that's for sure.
Well, we did do that. What?
Shut the door.
What'd she say?
I don't know.
Neither do I.
Maybe we should shut the door.
Your show will go live
Okay.
in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good
Oh,
evening,
yeah.
ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our show.
There is no heaven. There is no hell. There is only this world and its dark reflection. And we do not know in which of the two worlds we are.
Live from New York, this is the Coffee Club with your host, Felix, your co-host, Mark, and we are on the air. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to see you here. Okay. Let's see. We've got a caller already. Welcome to our show. And how are you this evening? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. How are you, sir? Mark is here. Dr. Mark.
Yes, I am.
But Dr. Mark is too busy doing other things than paying attention to the show.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm ready.
Yeah. Tonight's show, as you probably know, Dr. Don, is the life after death.
Or do you know anyone who's had an out-of-body experience, and would you like to talk about it?
Can you hear Dr. Mark okay?
Yeah, Ken. I was thinking of the question. I don't know anybody personally that had a out-of-body experience or a near-death experience, but certainly I've read about it, and I believe I mentioned on a former broadcast that I was very impressed with a book called The Proof of Heaven, written by a
neurosurgeon.
A neurosurgeon. Yeah, and he calls it The Neurosurgeon's Journey to Afterlife. I've also have given lots of an analysis to some of the brilliant atheists that have written recently. You know, Hitchens, I think his name is, and Hawkins and Dennett.
Was that Hitchens, Dr. Don?
Hitchens, yeah, Hitchens. Yeah.
Hitchens, he recently passed away about a year and a half ago.
He did, exactly.
So I guess he knows whether there's a heaven or hell.
Well, he's found out.
That's what I said.
Now, yeah. But, so I've given, I don't know, I guess, hopefully some of your listeners and all of your listeners and have given some thought to, and it's an age-old question. Actually, it's a philosophical question. It goes way back to Plato, really. And the question really is there a consciousness after death? I mean, is the soul live on? Is there a life after life? So it's an age-old question, which no one can really answer. Even Houdini, you know, remember the famous Houdini?
That's right. That's what I've said.
I'll let you know.
Well, you know, Dr. Mark had a near-death experience, but he doesn't remember anything about it, basically.
Well, I think I explained.
Are you serious?
For the people who are on Spreaker, they heard this, but I said this a few months ago. 10 years ago, I went in for meniscus surgery on my knee, and I was getting a spinal. Yeah. And the anesthesiologist was applying the anesthetic, and I was telling him a joke. And I felt all of a sudden a very great heaviness on my chest, sort of like somebody was pressing down or sitting on me. And I said, I was pretty much in a panic. I said, I can't breathe. What's going on here? and I woke up a day and a half later in Long Island Jewish. I was deprived of oxygen for 6 minutes and went into respiratory distress, and they were having a hard time intubating me because my neck is short and I am overweight. So because of this, they were having a hard time putting a tube down my throat. And all this time, I was deprived of oxygen. So my neurologist told me that basically, I'm very lucky that that they weren't feeding me, spoon feeding me in some nursing home, and I was dribbling my food because I couldn't do anything anymore. So, I mean, I consider myself very lucky, certainly. But as I said, I didn't see any white light. At that time, other than grandparents, my mother had passed away, and I didn't see her. I didn't have any out-of-body experience, so I basically knew that I guess it wasn't my time.
So you don't have any recollection of, were you in a coma technically?
Yeah, the neurologist told me. The neurologist told me that
you don't have any
I told him I had no knowledge.
In a coma or
I had no knowledge of that day and a half. I do know that when they brought me to LIJ, they took all kinds of tests, which I honestly don't remember. I was unconscious. They were just wheeling me from one room to another and hooking me up. By then I was breathing already, obviously. But the neurologist said I'm better off not remembering, okay, because I really don't remember anything.
I wonder if that meets the I mean, that sounds like an awesome experience. It's horrendous.
I just wish I could remember it.
But yeah, I'm saying I wonder if it meets the definition of an out-of-body experience, because people do have recollections of the blue light, the white light, seeing the drifting above their body.
Well, that's
so
why I said.
Have
That's why I said I really don't think it meets the criteria as we've discussed it.
Right.
But that was about as close as I'd come.
I mean, it sounds like you were pretty close to death, though.
Well, pretty much.
Yeah, that's close enough.
Yeah.
I don't want it to happen again.
So you read this novel by the neurologist, and before
not a novel.
It's not a novel.
It's a biography.
No, I'm sorry, not a
novel is
novel.
fiction.
Yeah, no, I understand. Okay. And before before his near-death experience, he was an atheist. Is that correct?
I'm trying to. I read it last year. The book's only came out in 2012, so it's like a year and a half old. But I remember reading it, when it first came out. A friend of mine recommended it. I'm trying to remember whether he was an atheist. I think he was Episcopal. I'm trying to remember. But my thought is that, as a scientist, usually most scientists, unless they really name themselves as a Jew or a Christian, I don't remember whether he really acknowledged any religious context at all. But clearly he had an experience that was life-altering, no question about it. I mean, he was in a coma for 7 days. And actually, all the doctors and nurses and everyone in ER, and later on when he was, moved to another ward in the hospital where he actually worked, because he was a surgeon. I think it was in Virginia. And so they knew who he was, and they actually, after 5, 6, 7 days, they were ready to give up on him. Until the 7th day, he opened his eyes. He just came right out of it. But the fascinating part of it is that he did have a lot of recollections. He heard a lot of things, and he met people he knew.
People who had already passed?
Yeah, people already passed. And I was going to save this for the end of the show, or toward the end of the thing, but I'll mention it now. I was very moved by this. One of the people that he met while he was in his school was a young girl, and she was on the wing of a butterfly, as he described it. And by the way, he's quite a brilliant writer. Not only is he a brilliant surgeon, but he's also quite articulate and very expressive in the prose that he's writing. So it almost read like a novel, but it was actually a biography. He met this young girl who was his guide, and she was on the wing of a butterfly, as he describes it. Again, it's very poetic.
It almost sounds
At
like...
the end, go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounds like What Dreams May Come, the movie with Robin Williams, Annabella Sciorri.
Right. Yes, but here's the thing that grounds it in reality. The young girl, apparently, he discovers, and he mentions this toward the end of his biography, the young girl that was on the wing of a butterfly was actually his guide in the afterlife, and told him that he had to go back, that he wasn't ready yet to remain. And as a lot of patients or a lot of people say, I don't want to go back, come back into the world, because apparently this experience is quite uplifting and brilliant. He discovered when he came back and he was healthy again, he discovered that this young girl that he met was actually his sister, who was the sister from his mother and father's former marriage. So in other words, it was his
stepsister
sister from a former, right, and he recognized who she was, and so quite moving ending to the whole biography. And I thought it was quite moving.
Do you remember the title
of the book?
Yes.
Yeah, the title of the book is Proof of Heaven. It's on a bestseller list in paperback now. It's Proof of Heaven: A Neurosurgeon's Journey into the Afterlife. And his name is Eben, E-B-E-N, Alexander. Boy, do I recommend this if you read something that is authentic, brilliant, and moving, of a neurosurgeon that had this near-death experience. In a coma 7 days and comes out of it and writes this brilliant book.
Did the girl he saw, his half-sister, I guess, did
that
he
was
know
his sister he never met. He never met this sister. It was from his parents' former marriage.
Did he know of her before?
He knew. He never met her, but when he was in his coma, met her, and that was his guide. When he came back out of the coma, he discovered that this girl, through letters and so forth from the family, obviously started doing research when he came from the coma. He did a lot of research and went back into his family. He knew he was not adopted, but that he was from a former marriage with a second parents. And this girl, who was on the wing of a butterfly, was his sister, because he found letters that indicated who she was, and so on and so forth. And by the way, mentioned something about a butterfly. It was quite moving.
Okay, we've got another caller. And who's on?
Point being, it is.
Hello?
This is Dan.
Dan. Mr.
How my
Dan.
friends doing?
We got Mr. Dan, Dr. Don, Dr. Mark, and myself.
All right, let's go back to general questions. Felix, you first. Do you believe we just push up daisies or we go somewhere?
I believe we push up daisies, but I pray there is more.
I pray too. And how about you, Mark?
I would like to believe that there is something after death. As I've said before, to me it makes death more palatable.
Absolutely.
And more accepting, knowing that the loved one who has passed away has not just stopped existing, that there is something to look forward to. What? I don't know. I guess when our own time comes, we all certainly would like to find that place.
Absolutely. But does that mean that if we pass away and go on to a new and better life, does that happen to the dogs, cats, and other creatures?
The movie All Dogs Go to Heaven. I mean, I really can't.
I don't believe in reincarnation. I don't believe in that. No. I'm not going to become a cow when I come back.
Well, no. I'm not saying anything about reincarnation. It sort of reminds me of a Twilight Zone episode where the old man and his hound.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? Well, what kind of place? What kind of place would it be if you couldn't bring a loving pet? I mean, I'd like to think that some of my pets and dogs that I've had will be wherever I'm going to be. But as far as reincarnation goes, I think if there is such a thing, I think we just start life all over again as another person, be it male, female, whatever. And the curse of man, as Plato says, is that we really have no remembrance of prior lives. That's why this whole thing about previous existence and going into some sort of hypnotic state and recalling who and what we are, like Shirley MacLaine, that's becoming quite popular now.
Dr. Don, what do you think about this thing? Where are you going to go?
Where do I think we go?
You're going to go? To put flowers on your tombstone, or what do I do?
Well, I'm really deeply convinced now. I'm deeply convinced that all religions have something to say about the purpose and goal of life. I happen to be a Christian. I happen to be a Christian by birth. I deeply believe now that there is an existence beyond this one. That we're on a journey. I'm not quite sure about whether there's a hell. I really don't. I think the hell is here. I think hell is, ask any Jew about the Holocaust and
ask them now. Felix and Mark, what happens in the Jewish religion? What happens?
Well, in the
wait a minute.
No, let Don finish.
Don?
I happen to believe personally, because you're asking a personal question, that there is an existence beyond this life. That the essence of who we are continues after us. As a matter of fact, I hate to get into this, but as you know, I'm a academic and a scholar, and I do a lot of reading. There's a recent book that I just read by both a scientist and a mystic. Both of them got together, and they wrote a book together. Imagine this now: Rupert Sheldrake and Merton. who was a mystic and I think he was a monk. Two of them got together and wrote a book about the existence of angels. Angels. Can you imagine a biologist and a monk writing together about the existence of and this scientist is a brilliant guy, not well known as a biologist, just very brilliant. His name is Rupert Sheldrake, and they wrote a book about the physics of angels. What a title! And both of them agree that they're clearly, without a doubt, that natural science needs to expand their thinking about doing research beyond just the limitations that the current scientific establishment approves of. And what they're talking about really is there is something beyond our imagination about what life is about. In other words, they're really talking about something very much beyond our earthly existence.
Well,
I happen to believe, the more I'm thinking about it now, I happen to believe there is an existence, and I can't describe it because I don't have that kind of mental power. I do believe that we have a life beyond this one.
These angels that they're talking about, I mean, it's not people who have predeceased us, because I think these angels are angels who pre-existed before man. You know, if you want to believe in creation, because angels appear to Adam and Eve, angels appear to Moses, and all of the, and to Mary and Muhammad. So I assume that these are angels who were around when, again, I don't believe in creationism, but for those who do, these are angels who were around when God was creating the earth.
Right. Yeah, I happen to believe that.
Hey, Don, you had a question before. Don, you had a question?
Do I have a question?
Dan. Dan.
Oh, or
Dan, did you have a question before?
Yeah, I did, but I was really interrupted.
Well,
for a change, it wasn't by me.
No, it's by Felix.
Well, I guess he's allowed. It's his show.
Dr. Don, guys, I don't know if Dr. Don wants to finish his thing, but, well, what again, I think I already asked the question. I have a lot of questions, obviously, on this topic, but, again, Dr. Mark, what's going to happen to you?
Again, it's all speculative. I'm hoping that there is something along the lines of what Plato describes, where we go into a room where we're all consciousness, and when my number comes up and I'm reincarnated, the only drawback, as I said, is that we forget everything about the previous life or lives that we've led, and you start fresh. But in the Jewish religion, death is the end. Okay, if you were going to go by scripture, death is the end.
Where does that say that in the Jewish religion? Where does it say it's
I would assume it's in the Torah. I don't really know. Okay, but you put me on the spot.
What's the point of being a good person? What's the point of being a good person if you think you're going to just die?
Well, think of it this way. Think of it this way. I know that in Revelation they talk about the 7 tiers of hell. Think of it as there is no hell. There is sort of a purgatory or heaven, and bad people go to the lowest rung of heaven, and depending upon how good you are, that determines which level you're on. I don't know. Again, I
don't know either. As far as I know, I'm on the lowest spot. I'm on the lowest of the totem pole.
Now, Dan.
Well, Dan,
all right.
Dan raises an interesting question, though, Mark, because if the Jewish faith believes that when your bodily function ceases to exist, that that's the end, then why bother with Yahweh? I mean, what's the purpose of glorifying Yahweh?
I think
Well,
it's.
Don, wait, hold on. I'm sorry, guys. Before you go on, I'm sorry to cut you off, Mark.
Okay.
Then why do the Jewish people walk a mile down to a temple if this is what they believe in? Why walk a mile down there? I see them every weekend. Walk down on a Saturday. Walk down, and if you think you're gonna die, you're gonna die. Please answer that one for me.
Well, first of all, like I said, there's Reform Judaism, conservative, and there's Orthodox. Orthodox Jews would walk 10 miles if they had to on Shabbos, on the Sabbath. Conservative, depending upon, most conservatives and all Reform people would get into a car and drive, okay? It's just the type, how committed you are to the faith. Orthodox Jews are extremely committed, and religion literally rules their lives. Everything that you need to know is in the Torah, and that's how they live their life.
Well, you think you're
what's
just
his
gonna,
name,
if
Duck?
you think you're just going to die and...
What?
I think what Dan is getting at is what I'm trying to get at is if you're Orthodox and you walk 10 miles to the temple to pray to Yahweh, what for? I mean, if you're going to die and nothing happens to you, you're not going to be judged.
Well,
so what's the purpose?
I think because as it is with, I think, Calvinism or the Puritans, if you're a holy person and you live a good life, that shows where you're going to go if there is such a place. Okay, I mean, if you do good things and you do good deeds, then I'm really groping at an explanation. I would say you're going to be rewarded, but when will you be rewarded? I guess your life is your reward. The kind of life that you live is your reward.
How many virgins do I get when I die? That's what I want to know.
That's not Judaism. Dave.
I know.
That's not Judaism.
I know.
What?
But
Well, what I just said?
No. He wants to know how many virgins.
No, but Don said that's not Judaism.
Yeah. No, he's talking about the virgins.
Oh, virgins.
Yeah,
I thought you said virgins. Well, my luck, the 72. My luck, the 72.
Can I segue station? Can I bring a segue?
Yeah, sure.
I can remember, again, going back to some experience beyond this life, our life. When my mother passed away, and she didn't have a happy life. She was back in the 30s, 20s, and so forth. I mean, she had to work. She always said to me, I never really had a childhood. So she was never deeply, although she was a loving mother, she had 3 sons. I was the middle son. And she had a comfortable life. My father worked 2 jobs for 90 years, it seemed like. And she had a comfortable life, always had, a wonderful home, middle-class life, so on. She's never a happy person. She didn't know who she was. She didn't know, any sense of self-esteem. Anyway, a woman who was caught up in a, not a bad marriage, but she just was not happy. She died when I was in my 30s, mid-30s, and I'll never forget this. When a day or two later, in the evening, when I was sleeping, she appeared to me. And she was beautiful. She was like probably what she looked like when she was 20 years old, beautiful. My mother was attractive. She was heavy, but she was, in the younger days, she was very attractive. And in this dream, she was encircled in a blue light, and she had a beautiful, angelic smile, and she said to me, "I'm happy now." Now, I look at the dream and I say, remember, I'm a psychologist, and I would say, you know what? It's probably a deep-seated wish that my mother finally, in a resting place somewhere.
She finally attained happiness.
Yes. On the other hand, I believe that was my deepest wish for her. And psychologically, in a dream, as we know, dreams can be interpreted on several levels. And I believe that on one level, this was one of my wish fulfillment for me. In fact, Freud said dreams are fulfillments.
Dreams are what?
On another level,
I didn't get that.
Dreams are wish fulfillments.
Okay.
In other words, what our dreams are really something that we have always wanted to have happen for us in a positive way, a wish fulfillment. On the other hand, I believe that appearance that my mother had for me, and it was a dream. I also believe that she was communicating to me a message beyond the world. So why can't I have my cake and eat it too? I think it was both. I want to accept that, and I guess a psychiatrist would say, "Oh, Don, come on, Dr. Don, you know better than that." I do know better than that, but I do have, since I have a spiritual side as well as a scientific side. And by the way, this is where I believe that science and religion can overlap. And I think here's a beautiful example in my own life where it has overlapped.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that out.
Well, I think as we get older, now this happened when you were much younger, but as we get older, I think people turn more to their religion or their beliefs than they did when they were younger. For one thing, you have a lot more time to think. You know that with every passing day, every passing week, the older you become, you wonder, how many days do I have left? So,
yeah, but Dr. Mark, remember, last broadcast I mentioned that I was thinking of becoming a Catholic priest.
Yes, you did.
So this was in this era. I was married at that time, but I was about 35. I married when I was 30. My mother passed away when I was about 35. So this was not like, okay, I got, how many years can I think more my mortality? I was a relatively young man in great health.
No, I know. I said that.
Oh, I had a deep conviction then. Of course, I went through a different journey since then up to now. You're right, because now I'm thinking of my own mortality and thinking more from a religious, spiritual point of view. A lot of my reading is spiritual and so on. But I was young, and I was much younger, and I was thinking in a very deeper spiritual sense, early on when my mother passed away. So anyway, for what it's worth.
I'm going to interrupt everybody for 1 minute. For anybody that's listening to the show and wants to come in and discuss this conversation with us, please call 646-595-3275. Anybody is welcome to join a conversation. That's all I have to say.
And you know what?
Well, you go ahead.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Felix, because I would love to hear someone call in and relate an experience similar to that, or something that gives the feeling that there's more beyond this life. I would love to hear from one of your listeners.
We'd love to hear it also.
To call in.
All right. Well, guys, it's always hard all talking together, but Felix, why are you here for?
Why am I here for?
What?
You mean
Not the radio show.
as a human being?
The radio show.
You mean you mean as a you mean as a human being?
As a human being.
As a human being.
Yeah, the radio.
As a human being, I'm here to continue the legacy of my family, raise children so they can grow up and have their own kids and just continue the life process.
Well, you know, we never really had any choice in the matter, obviously.
And what about you, Dr. Mark? What are you here for? Yeah, it's a hard question.
Wait, I'm gonna hey.
You know, my friend asked me about John Lennon's Imagine, and I said to him, well, I imagine. And he said, what do you imagine? And I said, I imagine a world where we are our brother's keeper. So maybe that's why I'm here. You know, maybe that's why I'm so passionate, a progressive in my feelings about humanity, and that we're all here to try to help each other. So, you know, maybe that's why I became a teacher. Okay, certainly. You know, I mean, I explained that if I had my druthers, I would like to have been a psychiatrist, but I traded in an MD for an ED, and my caseload changed every year with another 180 patients. And because you really do have to be a counselor, a social worker, to get through to the kids, because they come to school every day with all of this baggage that we as children never came to school with. So maybe
Right.
that's why I'm here. You know, I used to tell my students, you're going to learn a lesson about life in my classroom. It's not in the syllabus. You're going to learn something, and you may not remember my name, but at some point you will pass this on to your children and say, I used to have a little bald-headed, chunky English teacher who said X, Y, and Z. And as Henry Brooke Adams said, in that respect, a teacher affects eternity, because you never know where your where your will end. You know, so I'd like to think that that's the case.
Well, going to that, everything that everybody does affects the future in one way or another. And maybe that's why we're here.
Both you guys gave terrific answers, especially Mark. You gave a brilliant answer to Dan's question. Now,
thank you.
Someone should ask Dan what purpose of life is for him.
Well, you just asked
don't ask
it.
me that question.
Dan,
I don't know if we want to go back and revisit Monday.
Dan, I want you to hear something now, and tell me if this is not what you're looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I want.
You're trying to be funny. It's a serious.
That's exactly what I'm here for.
Well, but
That's what I'm
Dr.
looking
Don
for.
asked a serious question.
I know, I just broke it up a little bit. We can continue.
Yeah, no, right. You guys
I'm looking for all the virgins after I die. That's what I'm looking for. You know what? Good question. If I ask you guys, so you guys give me a fair answer. I was raised correctly and treat everyone correctly. Do I know what's afterwards? You know, I had some experience in my life about life after death, and I had some experience in my life that I can't explain other than it felt religious. Something I accepted in my life. Whether I used to like racing motorcycles and driving cars fast, and almost killed myself many a times. And I really felt a touch of something that directed me out of an accident. My parents would tell you I went to the hospital. And I almost killed myself driving my motorcycle 90 miles an hour in a guardrail. And why I lived, I don't know. You know, I mean, I felt actually when I was racing cars, I just felt like the steering wheel was kind of turned by something else, not me. When my grandfather passed when I was a kid, I saw a blue shadow of him next to my bed. So I gather there's something out there. I'm still skeptic.
You know, Dan.
I just know I'm not. Yes.
I was going to say, you hear many stories like that. My wife, when her mother passed away, said within a week or two, almost like Dr. Don, at the foot of her bed, she saw a vision of her mother,
right,
who also suffered a great deal before she passed away. My sister and my father said that when my mother passed away, they would see a cloudy mist. My mother was a big smoker later in life. When all the warnings came out, she decided she wanted to start smoking again. So they equate that mist with my mother. As much as I would like to believe all of this, this has never happened to me. Maybe when I come close to the end of my existence, maybe I'll see something. It would be nice to know that there's someone or a guide who's going to help me make the transition from one existence to another. But for now, and I've heard this from other people too, that because they feel they're attuned to it, that they feel the presence of those who have a special person who has passed before them. That's all I guess that's all I could hope for.
In my past, I would have a lot of dreams about my parents, and a lot of times it felt like it was happening. The life was just continuing with them, even though they had both passed away. And that's a dream, but, is there more to the dream? I don't know.
And that's just it. We don't know.
What do you think, Don?
I was just thinking of the experience that I had with my mother-in-law toward the end of her life. She was wonderful to me. She was of German descent, and she was born in a town outside of Heidelberg, where we visited a couple of times, my wife and I. And she lived in Ohio and met her husband there, my father-in-law, and they were wonderful. They were as wonderful parents as my parents were. They were exceptionally wonderful to me. They had lost a son who would have been exactly the same age as me. He was a young boy, born the same year I was born, and at age 8 he died. He had some kind of childhood disease, and he died. So when I came into the family, I became an adopted son. In fact, when I married their daughter, and I got my doctor's degree, my mother-in-law was so proud of me. She called me, and this is quite an honor. She would call me Herr Dr. Don. And so, if you know anything about German language,
yes,
that's quite an honor to be called Herr Dr. Don.
Yes, it is.
At any rate, as the years went by, of course, we became closer and closer. We had children and so forth, and we would visit from New York. We'd go to Ohio and visit them, and we became very close. But the story I want to relate is that in her last days, and unfortunately my wife and I weren't there, I believe she was in a hospital, and it might have been hospice. Now listen to this very carefully. My mother-in-law spoke excellent English. I never heard her speak German. Never.
You never heard what?
Apparently, she never spoke German.
Okay.
To me, I mean, she could speak German because she was born in Heidelberg.
Right.
And from what I gather, she spoke to her friends that were German descent there in Ohio. She did speak German, so obviously that was her first language. But I never heard her speak it. I guess there was no reason. I couldn't speak German, and my wife speak German that well either. Anyway, in her last day, and I think she was in hospice, and unfortunately my wife and I weren't there when she was dying. From what the hospice caretaker told us was that in the last moments before she died, she was in a coma. She came out of the coma, literally, looked around, looked up into the air above her bed, and started speaking German to her son. Remember I told you, the 8-year-old son who died. She was German to him, and to her husband who died a few years before her. Smiling and having a dialogue about seeing, apparently the woman from hospice understood German. She was saying something about looking forward to being together.
Well,
now, that could bring anybody to tears that has a loved one.
I have to tell you that when my dad passed away, he was on dialysis, and he had gone 5 days without being on the machine. The hospital had one excuse after another. I firmly believe that the hospital killed him, but he didn't have much longer to go anyway. But when they hooked him up to the dialysis machine, your pressure drops, and it dropped to the point where he went into, distress. He had a DNR, and my sister said when she saw him after he had passed away, it was like he had a smile on his face. So maybe it is possible that at the time of our passing, we actually do see people who have gone before us, who we haven't seen, and we reconnect. I mean, that would be my ultimate wish.
Yes. Yeah.
It must be, I'll tell you,
well,
it must be very crowded up there.
Or it could be very empty if you believe what some of the religious people say. I mean, everybody thinks that they're the chosen people and they're going to heaven. So who knows? I mean, maybe it's just God and some lucky person who gets up there, and the rest of us are in purgatory. Purgatory not as in hell, but just that in-between stage, which is supposedly, if you can believe, when Adam and Eve ate of the tree of life, tree of knowledge, and became as wise as God, not only were they kicked out of Eden, but entrance into heaven was closed for them until the birth of Jesus, at least so the Catholic religion says. And when people died before then, they went to purgatory, waiting to have their souls released so that they can go to heaven. And when Jesus was crucified, their souls were freed. He took upon himself the sins of man. Pretty good for a Jewish kid, huh?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
I got a better idea. I want to kick Felix out of my life. I want my 7 virgins. How about that?
Don, 7 virgins? You would settle for 1 virgin. I mean, Dan. I'm sorry, Dan.
Oh, yeah.
She's after you, Dan. She's after you.
I want you to hear this for 1 second, Don. Dan, listen to this. I don't think you guys heard this.
There is no heaven. There is no hell. There is only this world and its dark reflection. And we do not know in which of the 2 worlds we are.
Oh God, I love it.
It sounds like something that a goth would say.
Yeah, or Shakespeare. I don't know.
It's true too.
Do you know the great story play by Jean-Paul Sartre, No Exit? What a wonderful story that is. It's called No Exit. And in brief, this is the story. and this from what you just played reminded me of it, of the play called No Exit by Sartre. And that is, this guy is brought into a room and by a guide, and he's brought into this room, and when he's brought in there, the door closes behind him, and all of a sudden, he's in a room with two women. So this guy is in a room with two women, and there's no more doors, no windows, nothing. So obviously, they start talking to each other, and the guy becomes more and more depressed about this, what's going on. He says, I want to get, what am I doing here? I got to get out of here. What do you get out of here? And he can't figure out what the heck is going on. And then suddenly he realized, I'm in hell. And he realized something else. And this is the best part of the whole play. He realized he's in hell with these two women, and not because they're women, because he just can't figure out what the heck's going on. And he realizes, oh my God, hell is really other people. And that's the punchline in the story. Very, very well.
I think I saw that on PBS.
I thought he was going to. I thought he was going to find out that he was gay with those two women or something.
Oh, I was just going to say that. I was just like, that doesn't sound like hell to me. That sounds like heaven. Two women. It sounds like heaven to me.
Obviously, he wasn't happy about whatever the dialogue was going on and whatever the conversation was about. Then he realized, I'm in hell. Holy Jesus, hell is other people. A great line.
Sounds like heaven to me, Don.
Yeah, not if you're gay.
No, not if you're gay, no. I guess not.
Now that's hell.
Oh, dear God. Yeah.
But,
Can I be a little bit autobiographical? I guess I always am anyway. Is it okay?
Sure.
I have a distant cousin who has been in and out of my life, so to speak, and he's now in my life, back in. And I always tried to avoid him because he was really a pain in the neck, really, in a way. He's the kind of guy that he always thought that he was better than you. I mean, he went to, when we were younger, he had a better car. He had dated prettier girls. He went to a better university. It was on and on and on. And so I always tried to avoid him.
I hope he's not listening to the show.
He was instrumental in helping me when I lost my job at Queens College after 10 years. I think I mentioned this in a former
last
show.
time.
Yeah, and he was instrumental in networking with me to help me get into the corporate world, the corporate America, and I had a wonderful career, so on and so forth. Anyway, and then, he dropped away, thank God, because he was still a pain in the neck. I tried to help him with some of his personal issues and blah, blah, blah. Now he comes back into my life about a year or two ago, and he's got Alzheimer's, and he's got some other medical problems, and he's not doing well. He's my age. He's not doing well. But and he's a deeply spiritual, religious guy. He goes Catholic. He goes to Mass every day. He was if anybody was going to be a priest, it would have been him. At any rate. So we both grew up young kids as a Catholic, all right? So he knows of my spiritual journey about leaving the church and about Protestantism and Unitarianism and so forth. Anyway, we started talking about books we're reading. We're both retired, so, I read a lot. So we recommended a couple books that I read, and they were deeply moving. And they were of not necessarily a Catholic version, but they were spiritual exercises. I was deeply moved by them, and I told him this. And he was stunned at the speed at which I read these, actually 3 books one book was like 500 pages. Very, very difficult to read. But I spent hours each day reading because I was fascinated by them, and they were very deeply religious and spiritual. And he said to me, you know what? Unbelievable. I recommended these books to other my friends and priests and religious people, nuns and so forth, and they had a hard time with them. You went through them, and you actually can discuss them? I said, yeah. He said, you know what? You are an elite club. You belong into an elite club. I said, really? Yeah, he says, you understand faith more than some priests I know. I said, oh, no, don't flatter me that way. I said, by the way, who's in the elite club? He said, me and you.
Well, he finally admitted that you're his equal.
Yeah, exactly. But we laugh at it, but I want to just say that actually he's back in my life, and he said to me, you know why we're back together again, don't you? And I said, yeah, I got it, because we need each other at this point, because he's very ill, and I need his spirituality. I need his guidance. And I deeply believe that's why we're together.
Well,
Interesting.
It's, like I said before, an elderly person turns to religion. He turns to you because now you are his equal, and he can discuss these things with you where he couldn't discuss it with a nun, a priest, a close friend, okay? So there's a reason for you coming together.
Yeah. Well, I guess we both are on the same page now in terms of God's plan. We both believe now that God has a plan for us. And Dan raised a good question about what's our purpose. And I understand now, and of course, somebody may not be a believer. I really believe that God wants us to follow a plan that He has for us.
You see, I just want to say one thing, Dan.
Yeah.
Don't be so down on yourself.
Listening.
You see that? That
No,
was an.
whoa. Don't do a show like you did. Like your
No.
last show.
I'm not going to do
Last
that.
time you guys did
No,
a show
I said
on me,
I said I'm not going to do that. What I'm saying is, as far as not being so down upon yourself, the fact that you've come up with this, that's like the question of the day. Okay? I mean, that's the purpose behind this whole show. And you put it into one question. So you're an intelligent guy, Dan. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything else about this.
And it's a good question. See, Dan is probing. He's trying. That's the good part. That's the positive part. He's looking for answers. He's probing. And I think that's great.
Yeah, I got probed all right. Right in the bunch of toilet. I got probed all right. No,
Well, listen.
I know.
This is one time you can say anything you want, let it all out, and basically nobody cares. Sorry to say that, but I don't mean it in a bad way, but you can say whatever you want, and it's okay.
This show is the kind of discussion I used to have with my friends when we were like 18, 19, 20, 21, when our college days, okay, when we would sit around and eat cold pizza and drink beer and discuss the meaning of life. And is there anything at the end of life? Because as young people first entering the world, on our own, these are questions that we have. And in many cases, our elders don't have answers for us. So, I mean,
That's right.
They really don't. It's a learning process.
Like, is religion just tell? I mean, as far as even our government, is religion just trying to keep us informed, and so we Ten Commandments just, thou shalt not kill, and thou shalt not steal, and just keep us in check. I feel to be on a good. I don't know.
Again, I push PBS because they have such great shows. PBS did a program for 2 hours discussing the Ten Commandments, And basically it was, what relevance do they have in today's society? Back when Moses got the Ten Commandments, the punishment was meted out and set, if you steal, your right hand is cut off or this or that, how do you explain the relevance of the Ten Commandments in the society in which we live?
Right. It doesn't. Well, I guess it doesn't relate, but I mean, it's a good Ten Commandments, but right, it's definitely changed a little bit. To somebody like Bernie Madoff, who screwed the world.
Yeah, right. He wanted to get ahead, and he didn't care who he stepped on. And what happened was, eventually he got caught. And what happens to somebody who doesn't get caught, but that they're cheating or doing something? Do they ever have to pay the piper? And there again, it's a question of existence. Do they go to hell? Okay, what happens to them at the end of life?
Well, by the Judaic religion, nothing.
What?
If you're a Jew, you believe nothing will happen to you.
Dr. Don, what do you think about this?
I'm not catching the drift of the conversation. I'm sorry.
About Bernie
I was
Ten
discussing. No, I was discussing the relevance of the Ten Commandments in today's society. We know the relevance of the 413 laws that Moses came down with, other than the Ten Commandments, back when the Hebrews were leaving Egypt. But now you're talking about 3,500 or 4,000 years later, okay? If we go through those laws, how many of them are applicable in today's society? And if you have somebody like Bernie Madoff, who screwed his own family, basically, aside from others, if he was never caught, what would be his punishment at the end of life? Because we all know that there are people out there who cut corners left and right, and, they've not been discovered.
Well, you know what? His hell is where he is now. He's in jail. But I like what Pope Francis, this new pope. By the way,
I do too.
I think a lot of people. He reminds me of Pope John.
That's exactly what I said. I've said that to my sons. I've said that to my wife. He comes so close to John the 23rd. Now there's a pope who should have been a saint.
Yeah, I loved him. I hope he's a saint someday, because he certainly opened up my mind, and opened up a goodwill between Christians and Jews and others, I gather.
That's right.
Pope, talking about Bernie Madoff, if we ask the Pope Francis now, what do you think of what should happen to good old Bernie, he would probably give the same response he gave about homosexuals. Who am I to judge?
It's exactly right. Who am I to judge?
Not a judge. I mean, if I'd like to say the guy's a son of a bitch. Sorry, folks, but for what he did to other people and the problems he caused and the discontent and the agony and whatever.
If
he's belongs in hell. If you think, he's already in hell. He's in jail.
If you think about how these people who invested with him were rewarded with checks of 20% profit, 15% profit, even when the market was going down. Don't you question something like that when everybody else is losing money and you're gaining money? No, it's not kosher.
I think some of the financial regulators, or whatever they're called, I think they had some inkling, and I guess they didn't want to rock the boat.
You're probably right.
I guess they didn't want to rock. Somebody was suspicious, that his gains that he was achieving and the money that he was helping people to get. I mean, who wouldn't be greedy enough to say, God, if this guy has a certain amount of percentage, increases in market share, why not? But people were beginning to get suspicious, but they figured, I'm not going to rock the boat with this guy.
I think what Mark was saying before is Bernie got punished, but what happens to the people who never get caught? How are they going to pay for their sins?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
I think it's an individual. It's an individual thing. It's whatever you believe.
Yeah, well, that's the whole topic of the show. Like Bernie Madoff, is he going to go to hell, or is he in hell right now, or who? Like, if someone got away with it, is he going to go to hell or purgatory or heaven? That's the whole topic of the show. Or you guys, it's weird.
I mean,
I don't. God is all love. If God is all loving, then somehow, in some way, He'll overlook. I don't know what the right expression is, but if God is all loving, then He can overlook what Bernie did. He's human. He has free will. He's sinned.
Dr. Don. Only if he makes amends within himself. In other words, he only, he got caught. That's the one thing he did wrong. He got caught. Okay? He didn't turn around before he got caught and say, I can't do this anymore, and then come clean. It's like asking for absolution or going to confession if you're a Catholic. You have to go of your own free will, and if you really believe that you're purging yourself of all this guilt, and if you say whatever novena you have to and make a contribution, and you believe this in your heart and soul, then God will forgive you. But if you're only doing it because you were caught by the feds, okay, I don't see much forgiveness there.
Did you read anywhere in the paper, Mark, about him saying, gee, I'm sorry for what I did?
Absolutely
not.
Any
remorse?
Absolutely not.
I haven't.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I haven't either. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. If he said, boy, how awful have they been? I'm so human. What a terrible thing I did. I'm so remorseful and sorry about it. Say, okay. So,
and the problem was that he had so much, he just wanted more and more. And he wasn't getting caught, so he just kept it up. At some point, he could have stopped and maybe sort of turned legit and figured out a way to make amends. But he didn't do that because he just wanted to keep taking and taking.
Since we're talking about evil, how about this one for a question? If God is all forgiving and loving, would He forgive Hitler when Hitler put a gun to his head and blew his brains out? And if Hitler said, geez, Lord, I'm sorry for what I did. Oh, my God, I'm sorry for what I did to the Jews and everybody else. Bang. Do you think God would say, okay, hey, listen, come on in. Come in through the pearly gates.
Well, but according to Revelation, according to the scholars who interpret Revelation, Hitler is in the bottom rung along with Judas, as far as the worst perpetrator who ever lived of evil. But if you read the Judas papers, Judas is trying to say that he was only acting as Jesus wanted him to act because somebody had to turn him in. And and it fell upon his shoulders and that he was misunderstood, basically. Because even Jesus, forgave him when he said, do you betray me with a kiss or whatever. Jesus knew what he was going to do. It was all part of a plan. Now, whether Jesus spoke to him literally or it came to Judas in a dream, but according to the Pharisees, somebody from within his inner circle had to turn him in.
Yeah. Or Judas, another angle on that is Judas thought that, hey, he's got to stop him because he's going to get killed here. So somebody's got to stop him, turn him in, stop him. I'll take the money, and we'll prevent him from acting like a revolutionary. Because a big interpretation was that he was killed because he was incendiary. He was a revolutionary.
Judas didn't think that Jesus was going to suffer the passion, that he was going to be whipped and abused the way he was. He thought that, well, I'll just turn him in, and they'll chastise him, and then they'll let him go.
Yeah, we'll stop him from all this crazy stuff he's doing in the temple. Right.
He's got
to stop.
Judas felt he just couldn't control it anymore, especially when he went into the temple. Okay. That was, I guess, the ultimate act, and that's why the Pharisees, went to Herod and Pilate and said, we have to do something about him.
Right. But I'm not quite sure I would equate Judas with Hitler.
Well, I do know that in when the scholars talk about Revelation, they equate Judas and Hitler as being on the bottom rung, along with Stalin and I guess we would say Pol Pot and this new guy in North Korea,
Yeah.
Kim Jong-un. All of these people who have committed atrocities.
And maybe even Putin. Who knows? Let's throw him in there.
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
Well, I don't think he's committing any atrocities yet. He hasn't done anything that much yet.
Well, no, nothing that equals the other people we've discussed.
No.
Yeah. Well, listen, fellas, I hear the bells chiming, which means it's my bedtime.
Okay.
Hey, did you see the new show with what the heck is his name? Fallon? Did you see Fallon's new show?
Yeah, sure.
I liked the first show.
The first show was great, and I have to tell you, I think I really enjoyed yesterday's show with Michelle Obama. She's such.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
She's such a human person, she's not as stiff, she's not a statue. I mean, I could see Laura Bush, okay, not even Barbara Bush, because Barbara Bush is quoted as saying some very profound things, but Laura Bush would have been a stuffed shirt, and that's no offense to Laura Bush, I really admire her. But Michelle Obama got down there, and she was in that skit. She kissed Jimmy Fallon, hello. I think Laura Bush would just shake his hand. Even back in 2007 and 2008, before the election, President Obama and Hillary Clinton went on Saturday Night Live, and it was, just to show that they're human. I mean, I know there were a lot of people, a lot of Republicans saying, why didn't he wear a tie? When in his interview, let's say with Bill O'Reilly, it was before the Super Bowl. Why should he have to wear a tie? Because he's the president. He's not allowed. I mean, he was dressed in a suit and a sports shirt that was opened at the collar. But, I mean, they find something wrong with everything he does.
Yeah. Well, listen, gentlemen, may I take my leave and I wish you a good evening, and thank you for the conversation.
Thank you, and have a good practice on Monday, and we look forward to seeing you next Friday.
Okay. Yeah, I do. I did remind... you reminded me that I do have a rehearsal. I play with a concert band.
Well, if you forget, you know where to find us.
Yeah, I know where to find you. As long as as long as it works.
Yeah, well, that's a big problem.
Yeah. All right. Have a good evening.
All right, Dr. Don.
Have a good weekend.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a good night. Well, Dan, it's just me, you, and Dr. Mark.
Oh, no.
Oh,
What are we
no.
talking about? We talk about Christine, or what do you want to talk about?
Oh,
Or it's bedtime for all of us.
There is no heaven.
Well,
there is no hell. There is only this world.
Felix likes this.
Dark reflection.
Yes,
and
I
we do not know in which of the two worlds we are.
Maybe one of those worlds is hell and one of them is heaven.
This reminds me of. I was going to say this reminds me of the radio show The Shadow. You know, who knows what evil lurks in the hearts and minds of men? The Shadow knows.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our show.
Felix, just do a total flush and call it a night.
Exactly.
Nah.
I'm signing off to like Dr. Don. Do a 12-volt flush and I'm gonna
Well,
call
you know
it
what?
good night, or that too.
Oh, yeah.
Or we ended on that note too.
She actually sounds sexier than Siri.
All right, guys, I'm signing out.
All right.
All right, Dan. Listen,
have a night.
Have a great weekend.
Appreciate you calling.
Exactly.
Always.
Thanks for staying with us.
Not a problem, guys. Hopefully we distract from anyone else from calling in.
All right.
All right.
Thank you,
Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Take care, guys. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
And that was Dan the Man.
Well, folks, I think our time is just about up. Well, actually, I mean, we do have much more time to go, but I think we've exhausted everything and said everything we wanted to say about this topic. Just wish more of you would have called in. I certainly hope that some of you will do some listening in the podcast when we send it out.
And just remember, tune in next Monday. Our phone number is 646-595-3275.
I wish we could tell you what Monday's show is going to be about, but it's a mystery to us as well. I guess Felix and I will have to figure it out over the weekend.
We'll have a revelation on it.
Okay, works for me.
You know, Dr. Mark once said, our show's about nothing.
I still say that.
I'd say we've disproved you. We've gone from a lot of different topics.
Well, so my sister has told me. You know, she said, she, like you, said it's not about nothing because you always find something to discuss. And as I've said before, we put a topic down, but that's not necessarily, it just so happens that this evening we actually stuck to the topic.
Yeah,
but more times than not, our topic is a suggested topic where we begin. Felix and I shoot the breeze for a while, waiting for our first caller. And if they want to continue with that, that's all well and good with us because that's how we feel. But we will discuss anything that's on your mind.
No.
And we do welcome opposing opinions.
I mean, if there are, I know that Dr. Mark is always he's a progressive and he's a liberal and he's a Democrat, but we'd love to hear from some Tea Party people, conservatives, libertarians.
Yes, I won't hold it against you.
Anybody that wants, we'd love to hear from you. And anybody hear what's been going on in the Olympics today? I really wasn't following it.
Well, I know that Canada beat the United States in a very tough hockey game, 1-0. So Canada goes on to play Switzerland for the gold medal, and the United States tomorrow plays Finland for the bronze. So that's as far as I know.
The Russians are out.
Yes, the Russians were eliminated
within the United States.
Was it yesterday or the day before?
Yeah. Anyway.
I guess they're all going to be going to Siberia.
I don't know. Mark, it sounds like it's time.
I think so. I can hear the dogs barking outside. It's time we brought them in so I could feed them.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, and we hope to hear from you again.
Have a good weekend.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Good night.